Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I never want to see her again because she reminds me of the worst time in my life? Hi, I'm Rachel and welcome to Snacks and Scandals, where snacks meet Reddit story scandals. Today's episode has to do with cold-hearted parents, and our snack pairing are these chocolate-covered pretzel Oreos, where the chocolate cream filling is black, just like the black hearts of these parents. And the pretzels are a surprise, just like the things that these parents say to their kids. So with that, let's get into our first story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I never want to see her again because she reminds me of the worst time in my life? I, 31-year-old male, am gay. I'm married to my husband, a 29-year-old male, and we've been together since college. We have a quiet, happy life and recently adopted a baby boy. I've worked really hard to get to a place where I feel safe and whole, but a few weeks ago, my past came crashing in, and now I feel like I might have handled it horribly. When I was 17, I was still living at home with my extremely religious and homophobic parents. I'd known I was gay since around 12, but I buried it in deep. I spent years praying, begging, and trying to convince myself it was a phase. My parents made it clear that if I ever came out, I'd be thrown out and cut off. I started dating a girl from youth group. I told myself I loved her. I told myself I could make it work. We had sex once and it was deeply uncomfortable, and I shut down emotionally afterward. A few weeks later, she told me she was pregnant. Then she left. I don't know where she went or why, but she was gone. I didn't hear a word about the baby after that. Soon after I left for college, I came out and cut off my parents. I never spoke about what happened with the girl or the baby. It was like sealing off a part of myself I couldn't survive revisiting. I met my husband in my sophomore year, and he's the only person who ever really knew the full story until now. Last month, I got a message on social media from a 14-year-old girl. She said she was my daughter. Her mom told her who I was, and she found my name online. She said she wasn't looking for money or anything, just to know who I am. I felt like the floor fell out from under me. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't her fault. I know that, but her existence snapped me right back into that suffocating, terrifying part of my life when I thought I'd never be allowed to exist as myself. She looks like that girl. She speaks like her. And every word she wrote me, no matter how kind, felt like sandpaper on a wound I thought that it had healed. I responded once and I told her I was sorry, but I wasn't able to have a relationship with her. She sent a long message back. It was emotional, but not cruel. She said I abandoned her before she was even born, and now I was doing it again. I told her, probably too bluntly, that I never wanted to be her father and that I was scared. Closeted, forced kid into a lie, and that seeing her felt like being dragged back into a life I barely survived. I told her not to contact me again. She hasn't replied. My husband is supportive, but some people, especially my sister, say I crossed a line and acted cruelly towards someone innocent. That it wasn't her fault she was born, and I should have handled it with more compassion. But I genuinely don't have the emotional capacity to revisit that version of myself. That period nearly destroyed me. So, am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I never want to see her again? Yes. You have to ask in this case. Yes, you are the a-hole. Not only for what you said to her, but for not even following up with the girl when she told you she was pregnant. You're an a-hole to her mother as well. And right, your sister's right. She is innocent. She's just a child. And the least you could do is be a little bit more kind, and not that you have to have an extreme relationship with her, but more open to it. I don't see what the harm in that you're punishing her for something that your parents did back in the day. So let's read some comments. Looks like the OP didn't like the criticism and deleted his account. Ooh, yikes. Some people think that this is a fake story. I don't know. Why would you delete the account if it was fake? Another person writes, you're the a-hole. You just adopted a baby boy. What if one day he decides to look for his birth parents and is treated the same way you treated your daughter? His parents could have a way more horrifying backstory than yours. Very good point. They did adopt a baby boy. And what if that boy, innocent as he is, was treated the same way. A person responded to that and said, "You can't expect to be seen as a loving parent to your adopted son while completely shutting out your daughter for something that wasn't her fault. She didn't choose the circumstance of her birth. It's harsh, but you're projecting your pain onto someone who didn't cause it. You're the a-hole. Your parents sucked, so you decide to also suck as a parent. Your parents traumatized you, so you decide to traumatize your daughter. Your parents rejected you, so you decide to reject your daughter. You acted cruelly to someone who is innocent and who ultimately you are responsible for creating and therefore should have been responsible for her well-being the last 14 years. Very well said." And our final comment reads, "You're the a-hole. You want a 14-year-old to feel compassion for a 17-year-old who was rejected by his parents? Do you see how utterly self-absorbed that is? Congratulations, you've become your parents, and let the cycle of rejection continue." And now we're going to get into our snack for the episode. I love that Oreo has this very easy open packaging. So these kind of look like a graham cracker cookie, and then you've got the chocolate with the Oreo pieces in there. So let's give the cream first a try. Chocolatey. I'm not getting any pretzels so far. I'm going to try the cookie. Let's see what the cookie part is. Pretzel flavored cookie topped with salt and chocolate flavor cream. I don't know what the cookie tastes like. It's not like they're vanilla Oreos or a graham cracker Oreo. I think it's meant to taste slightly like a chocolate or a pretzel, I should say. I think that's what they're going for. So let's try it in some milk now. This is the second time I've had Oreos and I've forgotten to bring a fork. Do you guys ever use a fork to dip your Oreos in milk? It is very soft, I can feel. Okay, so the milk is enhancing the pretzel flavor, and I think it is coming from the cookie portion. It's really rich. So the salt and the pretzel come out with the milk, honestly, not just plain by itself. Whether or not I like it will be determined at the end of our episode. And our second story is from the subreddit Ask Reddit. My son has been giving me the silent treatment. Am I a bad parent for not giving a crap whatsoever? So my 16-year-old son and I have had a big fight about a week ago, and after that he stopped talking to me. He stopped answering his cell phone and made sure he ate outside every night before coming home. Now he works part-time, so he has his own spending money, so I don't have to take care of his daily expenses. It's been a week, and usually when he did that in the past, I would back down, but this time I just don't give a crap whatsoever. I can see that he's trying hard to stay silent, but not interacting with him frees up a lot of my time that I can just sit and watch TV or go shopping at the mall. Heck, I don't even have to cook for dinner since he stopped eating at home because my workplace provides dining services. My husband thinks I'm a bad parent for not backing down this time because my son stopped talking to him as well, since he sided with me during said argument, but I genuinely don't care whether or not he speaks to me. Now, Reddit, am I really a bad parent? I wouldn't say so. I think if it goes on for an extended period of time, I would think so. But maybe you just need a break as much as your kid does. So there are some edits to this story, and the first one begins with hubby should apologize for the slap, which we didn't read anything about a slap, so they must have edited that out. But it continues on to say, certainly we'll talk to him into that after hearing the rationale from Redditors. I agree that physical violence does not resolve any problems. The son deserves to spend his money the way he wants. I'm still debatable on that part since he sleeps in my house, uses my electricity, and I have to do his laundry, clean his room, etc. I still don't think he has the right to complain, yet we should back down before it's too late. I don't want to create the notion that silent treatment equals winning for him. If and only if we really come down to that, how should we approach him? The second update is I talked to hubby on the phone. He agrees to apologize and rethink over his stupid decision, leaning towards drafting a policy that allots a mandatory part of his money every paycheck out of direct deposit for savings, and then let him do whatever he wants with the rest. Should I request my son apologize for the silent treatment if we back down on him? And the final update, somebody's comment really gave me another perspective to look at my son's doings. I'd rather throw that $450 out of my mind and mend the relationship with my son. Since he won't answer my call, I'll lure him back by inviting his best friends over for dinner. Then after they sit down, I'll talk with him. However, I will tell him firm and clear that we apologize not because he used the silent treatment, but because we rethought our actions in handling the matter. Policy proposed in the second edit will stand. Okay, so the husband is going to apologize. They're going to make him take out some money for savings, and they're going to ask that the son apologize for the silent treatment that he's been giving them. So let's see what some of the people have suggested. You signed up for a certain set of responsibilities when you became a parent. You have no right to hold those certain responsibilities over his head. However, you certainly do not have the responsibility for cleaning his room or doing his laundry. He can do those himself, and I would agree with that. So one person says, you are pretty much a piece of crap parent. From your comments here, it's evident you don't appreciate just how well your son is doing. You are entirely at fault for the argument you had. How he spends his money is up to him. This bullcrap about drafting a policy to require him to save part of it is just you trying to exert some control over something he's handling just fine without you. You're still trying to win, even though this situation is your own fault. Leave him and his money alone. One other person writes, am I the only one who doesn't think blowing $500 on a trip to Canada is that bad? I don't know where all these things are coming in, but there must have been some missing things in the story. He is 16, and this road trip is going to be something he remembers for the rest of his life. Spending $500 compared to what he will make in the future is probably not a huge deal. Besides, chances are when he's older, taking a road trip with his friends will be much more difficult because of jobs, responsibilities, and so on. Yeah, I would agree with that. And our final comment reads, man, this is crazy. After reading the post, I was thinking, this kid is a spoiled brat. Then after reading all of the OP's responses, I realized that this kid is way more fiscally responsible than most others his age. He pays for all of his own food, clothing, entertainment, and was still able to live in a motel for a month. That isn't cheap, even in a Motel 6. You got mad and your husband hit your son for spending his own money on what he wanted. It's not like he's expecting you to pay for anything. Don't back down, just don't expect him to visit very often once he moves out. Now, there was some things removed from this story, but it sounds like this kid is the most responsible one here, and the parents are acting like the child. Let me know what you think in the comments. Our final story comes from the subreddit, Am I the A-hole? Am I the a-hole for asking my daughter to make more of an effort to get along with her father? Due to certain worldwide events, my daughter has moved back home and is causing problems between her and her father. This was posted 5 years ago. The most recurring issue is that my daughter won't get out of bed some days. She has an invisible chronic illness that causes pain and fatigue, but my husband was raised with the belief that if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. Nevertheless, he believes our daughter when she says she's received a diagnosis. However, since moving back home, my daughter will spend a day every week or two in bed, only getting out for food or to use the bathroom. This irritates my husband because it looks like she's not trying to manage her illness. He'll explain that in his perspective, she's coming across as lazy and she'll start an argument with him over it. This happens every time she stays in bed all day. My daughter stayed in bed again today. After their argument this morning, my husband has been in a bad mood, so I talked to my daughter about it. I told her that I understand she's sick and in pain and that I feel for her, but it would mean a lot to her father if she could try to show him she's making an effort on days like today. She doesn't have to do a lot, but even just spending a few hours out of bed would help. We have a small home gym in our basement, so if she was feeling up to it, she could even walk on the treadmill for 10 minutes, just to show she's trying. She was incredibly rude to me and even said that she can't wait until she can move out again. I think what she said was uncalled for, and I know her father agrees, but when I asked her brother for his opinion, he wouldn't give me a straight answer. In my experience, that usually means he agrees with his sister but doesn't want to admit it. That made me wonder if I was in the wrong for bringing it up to her, since it's really an issue that doesn't involve me. Am I the a-hole? So I would say yes. You know your daughter has a diagnosed chronic illness and you still expect her to just do whatever. Maybe you could approach it differently and say, hey, do you want to go on a short walk? Maybe your husband could do that even. That would probably help her feel like she's not so alone. So let's read some comments. You're the a-hole. You know your daughter suffers from chronic pain and your response is to badger her about how irritating it is for your husband. Yikes. You're the a-hole. So you side with a man who is telling you, a diagnosed ill person, they are lazy over what is clearly an adult who knows her own body. You really don't see why she was rude to you. You ought to be glad I am not your daughter, because I would have shouted a stream of bile at you that would make Ozzy Osbourne blush. Wow. So there are some updates to this story. Quite a few, actually. So let's start with the first one. Everyone keeps focusing on the treadmill. So I just wanted to clarify that I only wanted her to walk a bit if she started to feel up to it. I obviously don't want her to try and run a marathon if she's in pain. So then why didn't you say that? You wanted her to show up on the treadmill to show her dad that she's making an effort. Well, her effort is not laying in bed all day, every day. Her second update is, a few people are accusing me of being afraid of my husband or asking if he's abusive. He's absolutely not. He's a wonderful man and he treats his family very well. We're just struggling to adjust to our daughter's illness. Edit number 3. A lot of people are asking about her only being in bed one day out of every week or two. That's normal for her, but every so often she'll spend 2 or 3 days a week in bed, usually back to back. I still don't want to say what she's diagnosed with, but her pain levels depend on other factors that are out of her control. Edit number 4. Again, my husband isn't abusive. I'm not abusive. No one is abusing my daughter. Nothing about her situation is abusive. I'd appreciate it if people stopped accusing me and my husband of abuse. Update 5 and the final update. You're all accusing me and my husband of abuse, yet have no issues messaging me to verbally abuse me. Maybe you should think about that. So let's read a few more comments. You're the a-hole. Between your daughter and your husband, why do you expect your daughter to be an adult and pursue a relationship when your husband is the one being unreasonable? Oh my gosh, you're the a-hole. Your daughter has chronic pain and you want her to get up because your husband is an a-hole? Reevaluate your life and your priorities, because if you keep this up, when she gets older, she will remember you for this and probably not speak to you again. And 2 more comments. You're the a-hole for defending your husband. He's not a wonderful, supportive man when he gaslights your daughter on her illness. You're both abusive AF for minimizing your daughter's pain and suffering just so your husband can have his feelings saved. And the final comment reads, you're the a-hole for fighting against everyone in this sub and refusing to even acknowledge that your husband is in the wrong. You said your son agreed with your daughter. Does that show something? Very true. So we had a lot of a-holes in today's episode, and I would really love to hear what you think in the comments below. This mother, to me, I would agree that she is the a-hole and she's only trying to appease her husband and not be there for her daughter, which is really unfortunate for the daughter. And now with that, my overall thoughts on the chocolate covered pretzel Oreos. I give these a 5. I don't really taste much of the pretzel until I dip it in milk. Then it tastes a little bit more salty. But would I buy these again? No, I wouldn't buy these again. And I'd love to know if you have tried these. What do you think about them? And if you're a pretzel lover, did you love these Oreo pretzel cookies? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching today's episode, and I hope you'll join me for the next one.